This cruise was 15 months in the making, booked during lockdown when we weren't even sure it would go ahead. So to add to the excitement, we decided to book a pre-cruise stay at the Pier 1 Hotel. With a fantastic location, we enjoyed a beautiful summer sunset and, for good measure, an espresso martini. Soon it was time to call it a night. It's cruise day. I stayed overnight at the Pier 1 Hotel, which is just on the western side of the Sydney Harbour Bridge, and it is just a very short walk over to the Overseas Passenger Terminal, which is where Celebrity Eclipse is departing from. This morning though, Celebrity Eclipse of course is coming into the harbour, but we also have Pacific Adventure coming through, which she's doing right now, and she'll be docking over at White Bay with the Viking Orion, and Celebrity Eclipse will be sailing in just behind Adventure, and later today Quantum of the Seas will be joining all of these ships, and she'll be anchoring at Atoll Bay until she can move over to the Overseas Passenger Terminal once Celebrity Eclipse departs tonight. So very exciting day ahead, and this is one of the benefits of staying in the city the night before a cruise, whether you travel to Sydney or you live here. It makes the next day a lot easier, and you also get to enjoy some of the excitement from the morning a little bit earlier than boarding time. We've just checked out of the Pier 1 Hotel in Sydney, and we're making the short walk over to Circular Quay. So just seeing Quantum of the Seas off my shoulder here, and Celebrity Eclipse is at the Overseas Passenger Terminal, which is where we're off to now on foot with our suitcases in tow. It's only about a 5-minute walk, and I can highly recommend the Pier 1 Hotel Sydney if you are doing a pre-cruise stay or you just need somewhere to stay. Luggage drop-off is located right next to the main terminal entrance, and there were plenty of staff on hand to help. We arrived at the terminal entrance, dropped off our luggage, and as soon as we went up to the retreat suite entrance for check-in, we were checked off on a list and provided with a red sticker, which will indicate to the ship that we are part of the retreat experience. So far so good. We've been escorted inside. Apparently we're going to be walked up into the check-in area as well, and then escorted from the ship onto the ship. So we'll see how it goes, but so far so good. So we've just gone through the priority check-in process, and I've got to say it was pretty seamless. We were pretty much escorted all the way through to the front of each queue, and I believe we're the first people walking onto the ship now. So can't complain about that. So far so good. This is where things got a little awkward. Along with their applause, the lovely crew were saying welcome back, and I thought it was a little presumptuous of them to assume that we'd sailed with Celebrity before, but apparently our check-in had been so efficient that we somehow managed to beat all of the back-to-back passengers on board. Our retreat hosts were waiting for us, and after a minute or two of confusion and laughter, Alexis escorted us straight up to our suite. Our entry was so speedy that I didn't even have a chance to look around before we arrived in our room. We're all checked in here in the Royal Suite, and we have met our butler. He came and introduced himself and explained a little bit about how things work on board. We have access to a special restaurant as a retreat guest called Noumea, or Noumea, depending on your pronunciation. We're going to go down there now for lunch. They're basically operating for retreat guests in place of the main dining room. So there's no reservations required. You just walk in and take a seat, and they serve you. So we're going to go and have some lunch now, and we also need to complete our muster process by having our SeaPass cards checked off at our muster station, which happens to be the main restaurant. So we're going to head down there now and explore this beautiful ship, which we have not really seen at all because we came straight to the room. So we'll go now. After having our SeaPass card scanned at our muster station, we walked down to Noumea on deck 3. This fast became one of my favourite perks of the retreat. We were seated immediately and ordered our first meal on board Eclipse. It was fresh, tasty and well presented, and the Noumea crew couldn't have been more personable. After lunch, we admired the Eclipse's grand foyer and the beautiful Christmas decorations that adorned the entire ship. We made our way over to the Martini Bar, surely the most famous of all of Celebrity Ship's bars. The ice-covered bar top can be a bit sticky. If your glass sticks though, the trick is to bang the bar top next to your drink with your fist, and it will release. We made our way outdoors to the Sunset Bar up high on deck 15. The bar offers fantastic wake views, plus it's located adjacent to the Lawn Club, so it's a fun and unique shipboard spot. We watched on as Sydney's busy harbour began to clear, first with Pacific Adventure's sail by, and then Viking Orion's. Soon it was our turn, and I watched as the lines were released from the Dolphin. We decided to head to the balcony for sail away, knowing that Quantum would be anchored off Eclipse's port side. Quantum's crew wasted no time and had already hauled their anchor and begun cruising to the terminal where the ship would berth overnight. Noumea was the convenient option for dinner, and we made our way down to the restaurant just after 8. Noumea offers an elevated, rotating menu for breakfast and dinner daily, as well as lunch on turnaround days and sea days. It's a casual but elegant restaurant with an amuse-bouche offered at dinner time in addition to the regular 3-course menu. After a very long day, it was time to call it a night. I awoke to our first day at sea and made my way up to the Eclipse's excellent walking track for a few laps to start the morning.
So it's day 2 on board Celebrity Eclipse. It's our first sea day as we sail on over to Noumea. We have 4 ports of call on this 11-night South Pacific cruise. It originally started off as a 6-port cruise, but we had to drop Port Vila and Isle of Pines. Originally that was because of some regulations in those ports due to COVID restrictions and things like that. Those were later wound back and cruises are now sailing to Port Vila. Isle of Pines is still off limits. But in doing that, the cruise line changed our cruise ports over, and we have a visit now to Lautoka in Fiji. So that was an unusual addition for a cruise of 11 nights in length, because Fiji cruises from Australia are normally 13 or 14 nights. So I'm actually excited to be able to go to Fiji on a shorter cruise, even though there's only 1 port of call there, but still exciting times. I'm ashamed to admit that I haven't actually walked around the ship yet, so I'm going to go do that this morning. We had a great breakfast in the room that was organised by the butler. We placed an order for breakfast last night and that all arrived on time this morning, and it was fantastic to eat it in the room and enjoy the space that this room has. So the rest of the cruise is just going to be enjoying our ports of call, the ship, relaxing, and hopefully a bit of a more luxurious experience being on board Celebrity and staying in a room that is part of the retreat. And I hope to bring you more details about exactly what that means throughout these vlogs.
Sea days are often packed with events on cruises, from dance lessons in the grand foyer to lectures in the theatre. We also stopped by Celebrity Central for some future cruise information. Even indoor archery was offered, for the Robin Hoods among you. We made our way up to the Sunset Bar and soon made some new friends, and they invited us to join them for lunch at Sushi on 5. Sushi on 5 is one of the specialty restaurants on board Eclipse. It offers an a la carte menu with individual pricing and a variety of starters, sushi rolls, noodle dishes and desserts. There are also specialty cocktails and sakis available. Everything we ordered was delicious.
It is the early evening on the first sea day on board Celebrity Eclipse as we head off to Noumea. Had a super relaxing day, met a couple of you guys, shout out to Scott and Clark, and Julie and Peter. Had a very fun afternoon with you all. We spent some time after that in the hot tub on the balcony and had a really relaxing afternoon. We are now going off to a senior officers cocktail party in Michael's Club. That should be a nice time and opportunity to mingle with some other guests. And after that, we might be going to the show in the main theatre, and then we'll be having dinner at some point, but that's the whole purpose of a sea day, is just to relax and see where things take you. So we're going to continue this wonderful day on board Celebrity Eclipse.
Michael's Club isn't a large space and it was a little busy for our tastes, so we soon left and made our way to the Eclipse Theatre to catch the main show.
They are taking care of your daily needs, and we hope at the end of the cruise you will have all your expectations exceeded. A hotel director, Mr. Vladi from Serbia.
After the captain's address and welcome, we enjoyed the show called Topper. I honestly can't say what it was about, but I enjoyed the spectacle, especially the aerial work. After showtime, we made our way over to Noumea. I was quickly becoming a fan of the ease of dining in the restaurant. There are no reservations required. Your only job is to arrive during the open hours and you're guaranteed a table. The next morning, after a walk on deck, we made our way down to Noumea for a fuss-free breakfast. I don't normally eat breakfast at home, but when I cruise I always do, especially when it's this good. We started to feel the ship rolling a little more than usual. We made our way back to the room so I could get some work done. The captain came over the PA and announced that due to an issue, one of the ship's stabilizers had been housed. I've sped this footage up so you can see just how much of an impact stabilizers really have on the prevention of rolling. The issue seems to persist for most of the day, but that didn't stop us from going to the gelateria. The smell of freshly made waffle cones permeates throughout the entire center of the ship, by design I'm sure. As if we hadn't been eating quite enough yet, our butler Ryan left us a cheese plate to enjoy during the afternoon.
We've now reached the evening on the second sea day. Today was super relaxing. I didn't do too much. Mostly had lunch and then sat in the hot tub for a bit out on the balcony. Tonight though, we're going to what they call the Petit Chef. It's one of the specialty dining venues on board, and it's really unique because what it is an animated dinner service. So we actually get to watch a projection of this miniature chef, Le Petit Chef, cooking and preparing the meal, and then it's served. So it's going to be very interesting and fun. I'm looking forward to it. I've heard from a few people that have gone to it that they've enjoyed the experience. So going to that shortly. And then after that, there's a few shows on. There's a comedian later tonight. So we'll see if we can make it through to that late, because tomorrow morning we have an early day in Noumea. But either way, it's a delightfully relaxing cruise so far, and looking forward to tonight.
Measuring 6 centimeters, the world's smallest chef, Le Petit Chef.
I really enjoyed our dinner and the experience at Le Petit Chef and recommend it highly. There are alternate menus offered throughout the cruise, so you can always return to sample other options. Personally, and although I did really enjoy it, unless I was traveling with someone who wanted to experience it for the first time, I feel like it's a one and done for me. After dinner, we went to comedian Jeff Green's late adult-only show for a laugh, before ending the night with a stroll on deck in the warm, tropical air. The second installment of my vlog series begins with our arrival into beautiful Noumea. After our departure from Sydney, we enjoyed 2 days at sea en route to the New Caledonian capital city, and we had been blessed with terrific weather. I went for my usual morning walk on deck and captured some arrival scenes. As a perk, when we booked this cruise, we had received a fairly large onboard credit and had used most of that towards cruise line shore excursions. Shore tour groups generally meet on board, and the meeting location was the Eclipse Theatre. Once our bus had arrived, we were escorted off the ship and onto the waiting coach.
Back in Noumea, I was only here last month on board Ovation of the Seas, and today we're here on Celebrity Eclipse. The ship docked at about 8 o'clock this morning, and this time we decided to book the choo-choo train, which I've seen pretty much every time I come to Noumea, but have never actually done it, so we thought, why not? The last time we were here we did the hop-on hop-off bus. So choo-choo was a little bit different and I enjoyed it. It was about an hour and a half. We drove all the way through Noumea into certain vantage points that we got to get out and have a walk around, and about 10 minutes worth of time just to take some photos and absorb the views.
The train was proving to be a really fun and unique way to see Noumea's highlights. One of those was the UN Toro lookout. The cannon you see here is actually Australian and was installed during World War II to help protect the city. The high vantage point allows you to see all the way to the famous Amity Island lighthouse, and it's just the perfect place to absorb the distant beauty of the world's largest lagoon. Noumea often receives a lot of flack from cruisers, but it really is a beautiful city, especially once you leave the central business area.
And we were just dropped off back at the main port terminal, which is where ships that are smaller can dock, but because Celebrity Eclipse is a bit on the larger side, they dock at the container terminal like Ovation of the Seas did. As per usual, there's a free shuttle that the cruise line has put on, so that anyone that wants to get off for their own plans can just jump on that bus, and it drops them off at the main cruise terminal in town. And from here there are a number of tours that you can book privately with local suppliers once you get here. So if you haven't planned something in Noumea, you can come straight to this terminal, whether your ship docks here or you're on the shuttle bus, and you can organize something pretty easily just by doing that. And they pretty much all accept credit cards, which makes life simple if you haven't done a currency exchange.
The choo-choo train is a great way to see Noumea, and you can easily book it privately once you arrive in town if you don't want to pay the overinflated cruise line prices.
We're back on board the ship and I have crazy hair situation going on. It's about midday. Because we did come here before and we did a tour this morning, we decided to get back on board, and I think we'll be visiting the tub a little bit later. We've been invited to a sail away party on the helipad, so we're going to go over to that now. We have to meet inside because the helipad, unlike other ships, say like Radiant of the Seas, you can't just walk up to it. So we've been invited and we're going to go there now for sail away out of Noumea, which I'm very excited about because it's a beautiful afternoon, and I think it's going to be a bit windy, but we're going to go out there now anyway and see what it's all like. We met with our retreat hosts on deck 6 and were escorted through to the very front of the ship, through a crew passage and past one of the crew bars. I had really missed these forward-facing vantage points when I sailed on Ovation of the Seas, so I was relishing the opportunity to soak in the views. The champagne didn't hurt either. As we sailed away from Noumea, we all gathered on the helipad, and there was champagne and the officers were there as well. It was a really fun time just to experience
a unique way for leaving a port, and if it wasn't so hot I'd still be out there, but the wind for some reason stopped blowing and it was just too hot. So I've come inside and we're going to head over to the Martini bar now and see if we can have an afternoon cocktail. The Martini bar's iced top provided much needed respite from the heat, and then it was showtime. The fantastic crew at the Martini bar perform nightly at 8 PM, and it's something you should try and watch if you can. It's quite the spectacle. We then enjoyed a late, delicious dinner in Noumea. Tonight's full moon deck party took centre stage, complete with live music, a warm tropical breeze, and of course a full moon. I was so excited to finally be getting back to Mystery Island. My most recent visit before this trip was 11 years earlier. I was meant to visit on my Ovation of the Seas cruise last November, but that visit was cancelled a few weeks before our departure. When cruise ships are unable to dock in a port, they use their tenders to transport guests from the ship to the shore. As guests of the retreat, one of the perks was priority tender. We were instructed to meet at the retreat lounge, Michael's Club, where one of the hosts would then escort us to a waiting tender. We made our way on board and went straight to the top deck for the best views, of course. The weather was perfection, the water looked spectacular, and I couldn't wait to get in. Mystery Island is a tiny uninhabited island situated just off the main island of Anitium, which itself is the southernmost island of Vanuatu. We disembarked the tender and then walked across to the southern side to find the bungalows of company Mystery Island Tours. These cabanas and bungalows are a fantastic place to base yourself for several hours or the whole day, providing shade and somewhere comfortable to lounge between stints in the water. There's a bar selling cold drinks, plus massages and snacks are on offer. Elsewhere on the island, there are stalls set up with people selling their wares. It's important to note that there are no ATM facilities on the island, and all purchases must be made in cash. Australian notes are accepted, as well as only $1 and $2 coins. It was finally time to get in the water.
So here's the thing. I had grand ideas of doing some snorkeling. Bought a snorkel, lots of reef shoes, had the whole setup. Turns out I'm not a snorkeler. The problem is that as soon as I put my head under and try and breathe, I start to panic. I'm speaking to you on a waterproof camera that was purchased for me for my birthday recently so that I could film underwater. That's just not really going to happen today. Also, I'm drifted really far from our chairs and I'm not even...
Mystery Island offers some incredible snorkeling, or so I heard after the fact, with the best sights further out from shore. Confident swimmers can simply head out, but there are a range of tours available through the cruise line, as well as privately, that will take you out to the best snorkeling zones. Glass bottom boats are perfect for those that want to remain dry but still enjoy the sights. For those of you that aren't confident in the water, the island is crisscrossed with paths, and it's very easy to circuit the entire place on foot within an hour or so. The name Mystery Island comes from wartime. As small as it is, the island is home to an airstrip, and this is where during World War II, the Allies secretly launched warplanes, hence the name. We had enjoyed hours floating in the warm waters of Vanuatu, plus a lengthy walk around the island, and had managed to skip lunch entirely. Not a bad thing, might I add. All the same, we thought it was time to make our way back on board, and ice-cold towels were greatly appreciated. Iced water was also provided on the wharf. These little touches really separate Celebrity from other mainstream cruise lines. Once again, we made our way to the open deck on top of the tender. Truly, one of my favourite things about tendering is that you get to appreciate the size and scale of these magnificent ships. Tonight's dinner, we're going to Murano, which is one of the specialty restaurants on board, and this one is a French restaurant, so looking forward to trying that out now. Murano is generally accepted as being one of the best specialty dining experiences available on board Celebrity's ships. It's advertised as a modern interpretation of classic French cuisine, and after skipping lunch, I was ready to sample as much of it as I could. You can book a meal in Murano for a set per person fee of around $70 US. Dining packages are also available pre-cruise or on board and provide better value. Dinner kicked off with a delicious scallop amuse-bouche, while the goat's cheese souffle starter that followed was sublime. The star of the show was, of course, the lobster. Prepared tableside, the spectacle alone is worth ordering this delicate and delicious dish. And based on the number of flames I saw around the restaurant, it's safe to say it's the most popular main course option.
I will double temperature with a pre-medium mustard sauce.
In addition to the a la carte menu, there's a 5-course tasting menu with wine pairing that on our cruise cost $107 per person. Already overfilled from dinner, we decided to skip the cheese course, but dessert was too tempting, and this incredible crepe, also prepared tableside, finished off a wonderful meal. Make sure you watch parts 1 and 2 first by clicking the card above or the link in the description below. Today's a sea day on board, and it is one day between where we were yesterday, Mystery Island, and tomorrow we'll be arriving in Lautoka, Fiji. So sea days mean relaxing or doing things around the ship that are fun and enjoyable. So this morning I went for a quick walk around the pool deck, jumped in the pool after that. Now I'm lying down on the pool deck. And after this, we'll be getting some breakfast. And then we have glass blowing at 11 a.m. So I'm looking forward to trying that out. That is up at the Lawn Club, which you will see soon. Hollywood Hot Glass is a feature only on 3 of Celebrity's Solstice class ships. You can be a spectator at no cost. Michael had a very specific idea about what he wanted to make, and the glass blowing specialists were more than accommodating. Participants do play a pretty significant role in the process, under instruction from the experts, of course. The more intricate and potentially dangerous work is completed by the technicians. Meet Zoe, the glass dachshund. After glass blowing, we enjoyed a lush lunch in Noumea, with a couple of cocktails, of course. The rest of the day was spent relaxing, in anticipation of my first ever visit to Fiji the next day. As usual, I rose early to watch as Celebrity Eclipse sailed towards the Fijian port of Lautoka. The spectacular sights of tropical cruising are something that I'll never tire of, and once again we were blessed with an incredible summer day. We've just arrived in Lautoka, Fiji. Yesterday was a very relaxing sea day. Today though, we are off to the Hilton Resort, which was one of the shore excursions that we booked through Celebrity. We did have a lot of onboard credit with this cruise, so we tried to use some of that for shore excursions. And I think they're just making the announcement now that we can go ashore. So we're about to go meet our shore excursion group, and then we're gonna head off and see Fiji. We're just walking over to the Eclipse Theatre now. Usually when you book a shore excursion with a cruise line, you get to meet on board. It's actually a benefit when you have a tender port because you don't have to go get a tender ticket, which you normally have to do. You just get to meet your tour group and get escorted off. In this case, we are docked, but that means that we're just going to be able to meet them and walk off. The ship docked in the commercial port,
and a shuttle into town was provided for passengers that hadn't pre-booked a shore excursion, and our coach was waiting on the dock. From Lautoka, the drive to Denarau Island is around 50 minutes. The Hilton is just one of many resorts on the island, but was the only one that had access available as a shore excursion. I really enjoyed the passing scenery en route to the resort. The landscape was incredibly green and lush. Before long, we arrived on the resort island and were welcomed to the hotel with ice-cold towels. The resort grounds are beautiful, and this excursion gave us access to the main pool and other resort facilities, such as water sports. A Fijian buffet lunch was also included in the rate. Resort staff welcomed us with a kava ceremony. Kava is a beverage made from the roots of a plant in the pepper family. It's known for its calming effect, and visitors could partake in the ceremony by drinking some of the muddy-looking liquid. After the ceremony, we had free time to enjoy the sights and the main pool before lunch. The weather was spectacular, and it was a near-perfect day, considering we visited in the traditional wet season. Water aerobics, anyone? We enjoyed lunch, after which we all boarded the coach bound for the ship. There was a local market set up dockside, and we watched as passengers began to board in preparation for our departure. By now, you've probably understood that the Martini Bar became our hangout zone, and I have to say we made so many friends on our visits. It was such a fun and convivial place to be. Martinis didn't hurt, and the constant theatrics made it even more entertaining. Tonight we planned to visit Tuscan Grill, the Italian specialty restaurant on board. The restaurant is situated aft with a wall of windows providing an incredible wake view. The amount of food available was borderline ridiculous, but after a fairly light lunch we didn't mind indulging. We were encouraged to order different dishes to try, and when in Rome. The starters and main courses were really tasty, though I found the pastas weren't as good as those served in Noumea. Dessert was an overindulgence times 3, but very tasty. After dinner, we went to the Eclipse Theatre to watch vocalist Chantel Delaney perform. An evening walk on deck helped deal with some of that overeating, at least in my mind anyway.
Today is another sea day. Yesterday we had an awesome day in Fiji, and we are now cruising over to Lifou in the Loyalty Islands, which is our last port of call on this cruise. So it's kind of sad that it's starting to feel a little bit like the end, but I'm going to push that thought out of my mind. This morning I had an interesting start to the day. I thought that it was 6:30. Turns out it was 5:30 a.m. because the time had changed, but I didn't realize that was actually happening. I thought it was happening tonight. Turns out it happened last night. So when I got up and started operating my day thinking it was 6:30 and I went up for a walk, I got back to the cabin at what I thought was 8. Turns out it was 7. So actually it kind of worked out because now I feel like I have an extra hour up my sleeve that I didn't know I had. But yeah, I've been so confused about time changes on this ship.
Finally sure of what time it actually was, we went to breakfast in Noumea before wandering around the ship, taking in the relaxed vibe of a day at sea and enjoying the various activities. We watched on as the lawn was mowed before heading back to Lumini for an indulgent lunch. The rest of the day was spent lounging and being generally lazy before dinner. Michael's chocolate sphere dessert was set alight, and I couldn't help but think it resembled a comet entering the Earth's atmosphere. The fire was eventually extinguished, and we had a fun night out after that with new friends.
We've just arrived in beautiful Lifou. I'm looking out at the spectacular blue water and the green landscape, and we are doing a short tour today, which is to the cliffs, and so we're going to be meeting our tour group on board like we did last time. But it is a gorgeous day here. It is so hot, burning in the sun just right now, but have a look, it's amazing.
Here you can see as other passengers collect their numbered tender tickets so they can get in line to head to shore. Announcements are made over the ship's PA telling people which number tickets can make their way to the tender boarding area. The trip to the jetty was a short one, and we could already tell that our day in Lifou would be spectacular. Our tour group was led to a number of vans and we took off along the island's bumpy roads.
We just stopped at the Botanic Gardens in Lifou Island and we enjoyed a lesson about the whole process of vanilla growing and processing. And then we got to taste some vanilla tea and coffee. And now we're back in the bus to head over to the cliffs, which is apparently very close by.
The village of Jokin was beautiful. The locals were warm and inviting. We were offered freshly cracked coconuts and a flower crown. Then it was time to tackle the stairs down to the water's edge. Although you can enjoy the views from the top of the cliffs without having to walk down the stairs, the best views are undeniably from the bottom. Just keep that in mind in case you think the stairs are going to be an issue for you. The landscape is truly breathtaking. From the greenery to the rocky cliffs, the coral, and of course the incredible colour of the water.
I just walked up all the stairs. If you do the tour, and if you can, go down to the bottom, the view is incredible. I don't think I've ever seen water quite that spectacular. Amazing. Whew.
After I successfully stopped myself from keeling over into a bush, we had a few minutes to check out the village church before we were brought back to the tender port. The port itself has modern bathroom facilities, as well as locals selling food and drink, and I even spotted an FPOS terminal for credit card payments, though cash is still recommended.
We've had an incredible day here on Lifou and we have just come in for a dip. The ship leaves at 3:30 today. Actually, no, all aboard is 3:30, so the tender port is just behind me there, and the ship is there. So it's been absolutely fantastic after our tour this morning to come in and just have a really relaxing couple of hours in the waters. Beautifully warm, very shallow, spectacular day here on our last port of call in the South Pacific.
Knowing this was the last port of call on our cruise made it even more difficult to pull ourselves away from the calm waters of this tropical paradise. Some local ferry friends walked to the dock for the farewell, and we were among the last to return to the ship, happy that we had made the most of this incredible place. As we missed lunch today, we went to the Mast Grill for a quick bite. This complimentary venue offers poolside meals with hot dogs, burgers and chips all on offer. We returned to the room for some time in the tub, watching the passing landscape as Celebrity Eclipse set course for Sydney and began to sail further from the idyllic islands of the South Pacific.
Well, where else to go but the Martini Bar, right? We got to watch the nightly show once again. This time though, you can see just how popular it is, with the horde of spectators lining the bar to get a view of Ralph's incredible theatrics. A late dinner in Noumea followed, and once again everything was tasty and the service was, as always, friendly and warm.
Celebrity Eclipse is now heading towards Sydney. This is the first of 2 sea days that we have before we arrive in Sydney, so it's all coming to an end and it feels like it's just been all too quick. 11 nights feels like a lot at the beginning and then all of a sudden it's just not. So anyway, book a longer cruise, people, book a longer cruise. We've been invited to a bridge tour, which we are on our way to now because we have to meet in 3 minutes. And after that, we're going to be meeting with a future cruise consultant so that we can try and book something else while we're on board, because there's often much better value to be had if you book a cruise while you're on a cruise, and that's true of pretty much any cruise line. So always take advantage of those future cruise sales when you're on a cruise. But for now, we're off to the bridge.
Understandably, there were several layers of security to get through before our visit to the bridge, including a metal detector scan. Videography was not allowed, but we were encouraged to take photos. The center control units on the bridge are replicated on both the port and starboard sides, meaning the ship can be controlled from any one of those places. It was fascinating learning about the operation of the ship and the technology behind its propulsion and navigation. After the tour, I collected my glass creation from Hollywood Hot Glass. I decided to make an asymmetrical vase. For lunch today, we returned to Sushi on 5 for a hearty feast. Though we skipped dessert, I did pass the pastry case at Cafe El Bacio. Everything you see here is complimentary. Lucky we didn't indulge, because when we returned to the room, we discovered our butler had delivered a charcuterie plate.
It's now the evening on the second last day on this cruise. We are heading towards Sydney, and with each passing hour I'm becoming more and more sad. And then today I had the most rude knock on the door. It was our luggage tags. Anyway, tonight we're having dinner at Murano. It's our second time there on this cruise, so I'm looking forward to trying a few different things that I didn't try my first time there. It really is the best food on the ship, I would say, so if you do have an opportunity to go to Murano, give it a go. Some of the menu items can sound a little bit maybe pretentious or extravagant, but that's just French cuisine.
Tonight, I ordered the sole, and the tableside preparation became some kind of jewel, as Michael's lobster and my sole both vied for our attention. The fish was perfection, and of course dinner had to finish with the famous Grand Marnier soufflé. As it was chic night, retreat guests had access to reserved seating on the upper level in the Eclipse Theatre. We watched the Oz Boys of Motown do their thing on stage before calling it a night. The final day of this cruise was finally here.
Final sea day on board Celebrity Eclipse, and I've just come up to do the last little bit of filming of the ship tour. It is so empty as we're heading back to Sydney, and the ship will be quite a bit, so you probably can't even hear what I'm saying. I'm going to continue this walk. It's a bit chilly. You can tell we're no longer in the South Pacific region.
The captain had informed us that we were expecting higher winds and swells as we got closer to Sydney, and I was secretly looking forward to the rougher ride. As the morning passed, the sky darkened and the sea became a touch choppy. And the award for the most depressing sight on any cruise goes to... We went to Noumea for one final dinner, and I recorded this from the lower level windows. I was entranced by the passing sights and almost forgot that dinner was coming, which would have been a shame as it was once again a delicious meal. The highlight was the crab cake, but I enjoyed it all. And just like that, the cruise was coming to an end. I woke as Eclipse rounded Sydney's heads, with the grey weather almost reflective of my mood. I had been looking forward to this cruise for so long and had built it up in my mind so much that I was afraid I would be disappointed in some way. Overall though, I had an amazing time on board. I loved the ship, the service was on the whole excellent, and the destinations were incredible. I'll have a full Celebrity and Retreat review on the channel soon. There was time for one final breakfast in Noumea with a perfectly poached egg, an almost poetic symbol of my time on board. Thank you so much for following along and make sure you hit that subscribe button for more.